Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste everyone, and welcome to the 16th session of Atmabodha. Today we have some very interesting verses which are going to describe to us the fullness of Brahman, the fullness of pure consciousness. The description is very beautiful. You know, anything which is subtle tends to sort of fill up space, isn't it? Look at the nature of air, look at the nature of water, even the nature of good, kind, warm words. They fill up your heart. So it's like that. Consciousness is like that. It fills up everything. The description is going to be like that. And how is Brahman described? Brahman is described as infinite because he is beyond all limits. It is described as eternal because he is beyond time. You can't even say he or she here. It's consciousness. And then it's only one and non-dual because there is no object that is apart from it. Everything is an appearance in awareness. So in these ways they have tried to describe Brahman, and he is all pervading because he has no limits. So he is everywhere, and in fact everything is in pure consciousness. Everything is manifest in pure consciousness. This is the kind of description given about Brahman, the state of attaining Brahman. So a man who attains this state verily becomes like that. See, this is the nature of the ultimate truth about existence, that it is only one and all pervading. There are no two about it. There are no many here. Only one thing, and everything else is an appearance in that one thing. The essence is only one. So we have that beautiful mantra from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. The meaning is very beautiful, profound. I'll read out the meaning. The invisible Brahman is full. This visible Brahman, the manifest universe, also is full. This visible Brahman, the fullness proceeds from that fullness. On grasping the fullness of this full, which means the visible Brahman, there is left only that full, which means the invisible Brahman. See, if you remove something out of this fullness also, it remains full. Now, how do we understand something like this? That's why I always say, understanding through sadhana. Saint Francis of Assisi, so beautiful, his life. That life always inspired me right from my childhood. And he says at one place, he prays to the Lord and says, Lord, I do not want that knowledge which is not born of prayer. See, what a beautiful statement. I do not want that knowledge which is not born of prayer. So also this knowledge, let us not want that knowledge which is not born of sadhana. Because it is the only way to know these truths is through the power, the energy born of spiritual practice. And without sadhana, one cannot know this. What is it that they are describing? If you remove the full from fullness, still fullness remains over, they are saying. What does this mean? Let me give you a simple example for this, to help us understand this. Look at the mother, your mother in your home. Now, her heart is full of love for her children. So when the son comes home, the mother pours out all her love on the son, feeds him, does whatever is required for him, and with so much affection, so much energy. Now you see, she has given all her love to her child. Does that deplete her of love? No. The more she gives, the more love she has. This is the strange mathematics of love. The more you give, the more you will have. You don't get depleted the more you give. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. 2 minus 2 is equal to 0. We are trained in this kind of equations in mathematics, but they apply only to mathematics, not in real life. In real life, especially in subjective emotions, subjective realizations, in awareness, the more you give, the more you will have. This mother, the more love she pours out, the more full of love she is. So when the daughter comes home, now she has given all her love to her son, but when the daughter comes home, she again pours out all her love on the daughter. Does that mean now she has 50% love went there and 50% love went here? Is there anything like that? No. The more love she has poured out on the son, the more full of love she became again. Again, she poured out all her love on her daughter. Again, she's full of love. When the husband comes, again, she's full of love. So the thing is, in all these, you can say affections, love, awareness, they have pervasive nature. They will pervade your whole being. The more you give, the more you will have. And the less you give, the less you will have. If you don't give love, if you don't show kindness, if you don't show appreciation, you will be depleted of them. And the more you give love, the more you give support, solace, kindness, appreciation, the more you will have of them. The more they will grow in you. So this is the strange mathematics of love. 2 minus 2 is equal to 4. The more you give it, the more it increases within you. So awareness is like that. Consciousness is like that. When you realize full consciousness, Brahman, you will see that it is all that there is. You become full of it. This is what the next verse is going to tell us. Please see this. Verse number 56. Tirya Gurdha Madha Purnam Sachidananda Madvayam Anantam Nityamekam Yattad Brahmeti Avadharayet. Realize that to be Brahman, which is existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute, which is non-dual and infinite, eternal and one, and which fills all that exists between. See, the nature of Brahman is being described. Although you can't describe it. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that is one thing which has not been defiled by the tongue. Brahman. Pure consciousness can never be defined nor defiled by our speech, our thought, our tongue. It can't be touched by all that. So the nature of Brahman is like this. And how will you find it? You find it through sadhana until you see it everywhere in all that there is. For the knower of Brahman, there is no separate world apart from Brahman. Just like how, suppose there's an array of gold ornaments in front of you, there are earrings and necklace and amulets. Now if you ask, where is the ornaments are all right, but where's the gold? So will you find gold separate from the ornaments? No. Gold has become the ornaments. Gold appears with a name and form, and that's what you call as an ornament. So also, the world of manifestation is name and form superimposed on Brahman. So once it is realized, Brahman is realized, one sees everything to be imbued, full of this pure consciousness. This is what is being described, the state of realization. Sri Ramakrishna adds a very beautiful idea here. See, it is his experience, so I would like to just quote it here. Sri Ramakrishna says, the Chit Shakti or Mahamaya has become the 24 cosmic principles. One day, as I was meditating, my mind wandered away to Rashke's house, Rasik's house. He is a scavenger. I said to my mind, stay there, you rogue. The Divine Mother revealed to me that the men and women in this house wear mere masks. Inside them was the same divine power, Kundalini, that rises up through the 6 spiritual centers of the body. See how he is seeing men and women. They appear like mere masks, he says. The essential thing is that divine energy rising to meet the Kundalini rising to meet Shiva, meet its source. So what he is seeing is what you actually see entirely depends upon where we stand. Our perceptions entirely depend upon that. So the more we cultivate spirituality through spiritual practice, the more we will understand this. Perception, clarity of perception entirely depends upon sadhana. And this is the only way we can know spiritual truth. It is not merely about thinking. It is thinking with power attached to it. So this understanding can only come as we continue with our meditation and inquiry. The 57th verse says, Atadvaya vritti rupena vedantai lakshate dvayam akhandanandam ekam yatad brahmeti avadharayet. Realize that to be Brahman, which is non-dual, indivisible, one and blissful, and which is indicated by Vedanta as the irreducible substratum after the negation of all tangible objects. So you see, again here the method is being talked about. Realize Brahman to be non-dual, indivisible, one, blissful, all this we have discussed. But how do you get to this? Through the process of neti-neti. There is no process of iti-iti from Brahman, which means an affirmative process is not used because you can never describe it. You cannot describe in words what Brahman is like. So you describe it in negation. It is not this, it is not this. It is not the body, it is not the mind, it is not the thoughts, it is not the vital energy, it is not the world of manifestation around us. It is not even our mentation. It is not our ideation. What is it then? That you will have to come to through the no mind. Through this process of neti-neti, you understand pure awareness is not like anything here. That is the point to understand. So the general method prescribed for this is emptying mind, what we say in yoga, and the process of neti-neti. You empty your mind of all thoughts, what will remain over will be awareness. Negate out everything from the mind, what will remain over is awareness. So these are to be practiced, to be known. The process of neti-neti is characteristic of Vedanta. The process of negation of everything. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that even after Brahma Jnana, there is a state. Even after the knowledge of Purna Brahman, full consciousness, there is a state. I would like to read out that portion to you because it is very significant to our discussion here. Sri Ramakrishna says, but there is a stage beyond even Brahma Jnana. After Jnana comes Vijnana. He who is aware of knowledge is also aware of ignorance. What is Vijnana? It is knowing God in a special way. The awareness and conviction that fire exists in wood is Jnana or knowledge. But to cook rice on that fire, eat the rice and get nourishment from it is Vijnana. To know by one's inner experience that God exists is Jnana. But to talk to Him, to enjoy Him as child, as friend, as master, as beloved, that is Vijnana. The realization that God alone has become the universe and all living beings is Vijnana. So you see, there is a stage beyond just knowing. It is the stage of dynamically experiencing what you have known. of interacting with the Supreme Reality, of experiencing it in all these ways, as a friend, as a child, as a parent, and getting nourished by it. So this is Vijnana. So this is a development over Brahma Jnana. See, Sri Ramakrishna's life is the best illustration of this state. After getting the highest knowledge, he preferred to live as a child of the Divine Mother, isn't it? His whole life, this was his dominant bhav. That he is a little child of the Divine Mother and he would relate to her just like that, just like a child. Many times after Samadhi, he would be seen talking something which nobody could understand. And then he was talking to the Divine Mother. And everything he would tell her. What he wanted, what he was seeing, why he was seeing what he was seeing. So it is something really thrilling to read all these experiences. The state of Vijnana, the state where your knowledge nourishes you entirely, where you experience God completely in so many bhavs, that is the state of Vijnana. So they are hinting at all these states by saying, you see here, Vedanta brings us to the irreducible substratum through the negation of all tangible objects. Once you attain to that substratum, these are the ways in which a man of realization lives. Even after you have known Brahman, you can form a relationship with Brahman in all these ways. You can enjoy Brahman in so many ways through a very purified mind. That mind cannot even be called mind. It has reached a very transcendent stage. So all this is there. Now it entirely depends on us how much of this we are going to experience. It's very nice to discuss all these concepts because it clears our vrittis, it clears our mind. But I told you, the difference between knowing about milk and drinking milk is the difference between studying a scripture and practicing sadhana. You can know about milk, definitely. But drinking milk and getting nourished by it, that will come only by sadhana. So let us dive into this. That's the whole point. Now let's go to verse number 58. Akhandananda rupasya tasyananda lavashritaha brahmadya taratamyena bhavanti anandino lavaha. Deities like Brahma and Indra taste only a particle of the unlimited bliss of Brahman and enjoy in proportion their shares of that particle. See, Brahma and Indra. Brahma is the creator god in Hinduism. So they all are enjoying just a particle of that bliss of Brahman. This is what is being said. Even Sri Ramakrishna says this. In the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, he says, even great sages like Shukadev, according to some, Sri Ramakrishna says, Shukadev only saw and touched the ocean of Brahman. He did not dive into it. That is why he could return to the world and impart religious instruction. And many such sages, Sri Ramakrishna says, some of them just saw the ocean, some went close and touched the ocean. So what are they trying to mean by all this is, the ocean of Brahman, pure consciousness is so vast and so profound. It is bottomless. It is so huge that take as much as you can. The container you carry, according to that, you are going to get water. It depends on the vessel you carry, which means the receptacle of our mind. To what extent can it absorb reality? That much you will get of reality. So Shukadeva is the paragon of sages in India. He was the one who gave out Bhagavad. He was born realized, born pure. And still about him, Sri Ramakrishna says that he saw and touched the ocean, but he did not plunge into the ocean of Brahman. So then what to speak of the ordinary jiva? Here, let me tell you the story of Shukdev. One very beautiful story is there, so that you enjoy the a state of mind of a man of realization. This Shuka was the son of Vyas, who is the author of, in India, any Purana, any work, and the author is Vyas. Now, Vyasa is supposed to have compiled all of these. And his son Shukdev, he was born with realization. He was a born knower of Brahman. So he was no ordinary soul. When the father saw, when Vyas saw that this boy already has this supreme knowledge, then the father thought, what more can I teach him? So let him go and get instruction from Janaka, the sage Janaka, who ruled over Mithila. We don't know if it was the same Janaka who was the father of Janaki, Sita. But anyway, that line maybe. Or it could be the same person also, because in India, the chronology can be very bad. And secondly, the same line has the same name. The grandchildren of Janaka also were called Janakas. So he was anyway sent to Janaka in Mithila to get instruction on knowledge, whatever knowledge was available at that time. So Shukdev goes there, goes to the palace of Mithila, and then he goes to the gates. Now Janaka had given express instructions to his gatekeepers that Shukdev should not immediately be allowed inside. Although he was a famous sage at that time, he was well known for his knowledge of Brahman, still the instruction was, don't allow him in immediately. So the gatekeepers stop him. And then Shukdev has absolutely no trace of any anxiety on his face or any pain on his face. He happily stays there outside the palace for 3 days. Nobody bothers about him. They just neglect him deliberately. And they watch him. But he has absolutely, he's not worried about anything. He's not anxious about anything. And he has no ego, basically. So he doesn't feel, oh, this is so insulting. Nobody came to receive me. Nobody appreciates my knowledge. Nothing of that sort. After 3 days, he is suddenly ushered into the palace and given ultra hospitality. All sorts of nice things and a huge, ushered into the royal quarters and a royal bedstead and good food and all sorts of luxurious things around him. And again they watch his face, the same calmness, the same equanimity. Absolutely, he is as it were, he has touched something so deep that nothing on the surface matters. There's a deep silence about him, an inward turned look, deeply meditative. They find all these characteristics no matter where he is kept and what is done with him. So he's only a young boy. And everybody is so touched looking at this. So 1 week he is kept in those royal apartments and given all sorts of drink and food, and in the expectation that there will be some reaction, something coming out of him. But there is absolutely no reaction of what we call harsha, too much of joy, excitement, no such thing. He's anchored in the self. It is so clear. He just radiates joy and bliss and divinity and absolute equanimity towards all, towards everything. Very balanced state of mind. Now everybody is amazed and they run and go to King Janaka and tell him that this is a very strange boy, that nothing affects him. And he's the same everywhere. And the aura around him is something magical, it is divine. So then, after a week, Janaka invites him into his courtroom. So the first time when Shukdev and Janaka are meeting now, Shukdev enters the courtroom, and then as the courts of kings used to be, everything is there in that court. The courtiers are on one side, and then there are a whole lot of people who have come to meet the king. On one side of the courtroom there's music playing, and then a whole lot of dancers who are, the Bharatanatyam performance is going on right there. All this is there. Janaka now, he bows down before Janaka, this Shukdev, and then Janaka gives him a bowl of milk and full to the brim, and tells him that please take this milk and circulate this hall 7 times. I want to see if the milk will fall or not. And Shukdev takes the bowl and with one pointed mind starts going around the courtroom. Now music is playing, the dances are going on, the attraction of the beautiful faces of the dancers, everything is there around him. But Shukdev's mind does not flicker one bit. Not one drop of milk falls after 7 circumambulations, you can say, of that courtroom. He is not touched by anything. How is it that the milk is intact? You see, his hand is so firm. It is because his eyes are so steady, because his mind is so unflickering. The mind is so steady, so calm, that the eyes are completely calm and absorbed deep within himself. So the hand is so steady. When he comes back to Janaka, and Janaka sees that the bowl is full to the brim with milk, he says, nobody else could have done this feat. It is not easy to do this. You are completely free of restlessness of any kind. Your body itself shows your state of mind. I have nothing more to teach you, my son. You have realized the ultimate. One whose mind is so steady, so indrawn, that is proof that he has touched the ultimate. So Janaka bows down to Shukdev and then tells him that you please return to your father because I have nothing more to instruct you. You have everything with you. So this is the great Shukdev who is being described as he didn't yet dive into the ocean of Brahman. He saw it and touched it from a distance. Which means to say the ocean of Brahman, Brahmagnan, is something so deep, something so profound. Even great sages, what to speak of us, even great sages, many of them have not dived fully into it. What to speak of us then? We are still struggling with mental awareness. Check your own life and see what we are calling our thought, mentation, and our self-created worries, fears. All this, it's all in the realm of mind. We have not yet been able to transcend that level at all. See, that is why now today is the first day of Navaratri. Durga Puja is coming. This is the reason why we do Shakti Puja, because we are under the jurisdiction of Shakti just now. As long as you are functioning with the mind and through senses and with the body, you are under her power and only she can liberate you. It is only when you transcend the mind that you reach the knowledge of Brahman, the Supreme Purusha. Until then, you are under Prakriti. So, the way is through her. So, you worship her, you love her, you relate with her. She is the great creatrix and she comes to us as the mother of the universe to make our path easy. Knowing how we are, in the very nature of things, that knowing how bound the jiva is, mother comes to us in a motherly way in order to liberate us. So if we can relate with Shakti in this manner, then the path will be clear. We will know how to proceed. Sri Ramakrishna makes this very clear in the gospel. He says that until a man attains samadhi, he is under the jurisdiction of Shakti, and it is only through her that he will have to proceed. By pleasing her, by worshipping her. Because just now we are bound by our mind, bound by our compulsive natures, by our deep conditioning. So you proceed in spiritual life depending upon where you stand. This is to be acknowledged. And that is why step by step, systematically you can proceed. Start with worship. Many times I get these questions that should I worship Sakar or Nirakar, Sagun or Nirgun? The question should not arise, what is my need at present? I am bound in a body, so I am forced to worship him also as bound in a body. I can't but do otherwise, because I cannot relate with the impersonal as long as I have not touched my own impersonality. So there is no question of should I do this or should I do that. See where you stand and proceed accordingly. When you are climbing a mountain, you must know, you will naturally know. If you look at the summit, you will naturally know where I stand and how I should proceed. You need not ask about it. So the point is this, to become sensitive to sadhana. Where I stand, what is my mind doing? What are the contents of my mind? Why is meditation not a reality with me every day? Why do I struggle with my mind? As long as all this is there, take up some method, some prakriya, and dive into it. This is the way to proceed. So that is why Shakti Puja. In fact, in the Chandi, in the hymns on the Divine Mother, we say everything is verily she. All of our thinking, feeling, willing, Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, it is all she. Purusha is just now invisible. Prakriti is very visible. So function, work through her. That is why Shakti Puja. As long as our senses, we are bound by the senses, we are bound by the mind, our mentation is conditioned, and we are deeply identified with the body-mind complex, the only way is to proceed through Prakriti. That is why Shakti Puja. So if we can do this intensely, Mahashakti herself will liberate us. What is the proof of that? What is the proof of her grace? She gives genuine knowledge. She gives deep divine love in the human heart. And she shows us the level of our bondage so that the yearning for liberation grows in us. Who likes to live in a cage? Tell me. Have you ever thought of it? Living in a cage? But we are living in a cage. It's not just the animals in the zoo. We are living in the cage of our compulsions, our conditioning, our negativities. So getting out of this, liberation is an idea that requires deep contemplation. What does liberation mean? Initially, it means this, liberating the mind of all this. And finally, liberating, you see, it is not that the person attains liberation. It is liberation from the person. Liberation from the idea of personality. Diving into pure consciousness, which you are. Away from the personality which you never were anyway. So this is what actually liberation means. So let us get this clear. Liberation is not a state, another state for the person. It is liberation from the person, from the personality sense. Because that is what you actually are. See, check your first person present experience and see. You are always aware. You are identified by choice. You can be identified with something or you can be disidentified from everything. But awareness, aware you always are. Which means awareness is fundamentally your nature. Everything else comes later. Everything else is imposed upon you. It's not your real nature. So this being the actual state of things, how do we manage to bind ourselves with a whole lot of identities, identifications, attributes? So we manage to do that because of non-investigation. Lack of Vedant will do this. So clarity of thinking is required. And that is why meditation is a huge aid. Now, yes, let's go to verse number 59. Tadyuktam akhilam vastu vyavaharas tadanvitaha tasmat sarvagatam brahma kshire sarpiriva akhile. All objects are pervaded by Brahman. All actions are possible because of Brahman. Therefore, Brahman permeates everything as butter permeates milk. All objects are pervaded by Brahman. We have been discussing this. And all actions are due to Brahman, enlivened by the fact of your consciousness. And then he says, and Brahman is already present in everything as butter is already present in milk. How do you extract butter? I'm sure you do it in your homes. So here in India, because it's a hot country, we first make the butter into curd, and then we churn the curd and remove butter. The milk is set into curd, and then we churn the curd and make it into butter. But in cold places like in Pangod, there just the cream of milk, if churned, becomes butter. So butter is already there in milk, but you can't find butter in milk, isn't it? You need a process to extract butter from milk. So also Brahman is already present in you. Brahman is the reality about you, but you need a process to extract and know it firsthand. So this is why this insistence on doing something which will make this knowledge very clear in the mind. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, you do not get butter just by repeating butter, butter, butter. You must set the milk into curd, and then you must churn it, and then butter will float up, bob up as it were, and then you will take the butter. So also just by saying, I am Brahman, won't do. You must set the mind, just like how you set curd out of milk. You must allow the mind to settle, calm it, clean it, purify it, and then churn it. When you churn it, initially a whole lot of things will come out, not the butter. The clearer it becomes, the purer it becomes, then gradually you will see butter bobbing up. That butter is nothing but awareness. The very structure of your mind is thoughts, emotions, all this on a substratum of awareness. The awareness is all hidden and invested in the thought process. So through sadhana, you clear all of this until the awareness bobs up to the surface. Then you understand that alone was the truth. There was nothing called mind. Don't mind, but there's nothing called mind. Mind does not exist. Mind only exists as long as thought is there. When there are no thoughts, there is no mind. But what is there? What remains over? Awareness is ever there. This again is to be realized through sadhana. So this is what is being described. Another beautiful idea which Nikhilanji Maharaj has given here is, Brahman pervades all objects as Asti, Bhati and Priya. What is real in the phenomenal world is Brahman. See, this is how it is seen. Everything is only Brahman plus name and form. Satchidananda plus name and form. Now the characteristics of this Satchidananda is existence, Asti, it is called in Sanskrit. Bhati, which means cognizability actually. It shines. And Priya, it is attractive. See, any object which you perceive has these characteristics. Please see. It is due to the presence of Brahman that it is there, first of all. Isness is there. See, we usually don't think like this, so this may be a little difficult to grasp. But the fact of this now, this book here, this book is there, the isness of this book is Brahman. And it shines, as it were, in my perception, isn't it? I can cognize it as an object separate. That cognizability is due to Brahman. And once you see it, if you see it for some time, you start liking it. The nature of the mind, what you focus upon for a considerable period of time, it attracts you. It colors your mind. So this Priya, it becomes dear to you. So this force of attraction also is due to Brahman. Satchidananda plus name and form is the object. If you extract out Satchidananda and remove the name and form, you come to Brahman. So its very nature is existence, isness, cognizability, and dearness, a kind of attraction for the object. All this is due to the presence of Brahman. The nature of any object has all of this. But we are so interested in the content of the book, in the name and the form, in the content, that we lose sight of these fundamental things about being. Asti Bhati Priya is a very fundamental concept in Vedanta, that any object has these characteristics, the fact of existence, the fact of cognizability, and the fact of perception and a kind of attraction towards it. So all this is due to the presence of consciousness, Brahman. It shines due to consciousness. It is existing due to consciousness, and it is dear due to consciousness. Please see, today only I was discussing this idea. When consciousness does not manifest in a corpse, consciousness is not manifest as life, because vital energy has left, prana has left. So then, do you value that body? The person may have been very dear to you, but because consciousness is not manifest there, it has not come out as life, because vital energy has left the body, the prana has left. This is what death means. So then what do you do with the body? You can't keep the body. The point is this, it is consciousness that is dear. Apparently it appears like some body is dear to us, but what we are loving there is consciousness. Sri Ramakrishna used to tell stories on this, just to help us understand what is it that we actually love. There's this beautiful conversation in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad between sage Yajnavalkya and his wife Maitreyi about this. What is it exactly that you love in a person? You may think that you love his mind, his attributes, his tendencies, his sanskars, his feelings, his personality. No, very sorry. You don't love any of these, because they're all changing, you know it. You love consciousness there, primarily, fundamentally. Nava kama patyukamaya pati priyo bhavati atmanastu kamaya pati priyo bhavati. That is the mantra there, which means navare, no, you do not love the husband for the sake of the husband, but for the sake of the Atman. You do not love the wife for the sake of the wife, but because the Atman is shining there, through that form, through that name. So this is an idea which is recurring in the Upanishads, that Brahman alone is loved, and Brahman alone becomes manifest as life. See, remember this, Brahman in conjunction with Shakti, conjoined with Shakti, Prakriti. In Vedanta we use the word Brahman, and in Sankhya we use the word Purusha. So in conjunction with Prakriti, it manifests as life. Without Prakriti, Brahman will be there, but it won't manifest as life. Isn't it? That is why a lifeless body, it's meaningless to us. It has no value for us. So what is it? Brahman conjoined with Shakti, Purusha conjoined with Prakriti is what manifests as life. There is this beautiful story in Shankara's life. You might have heard of it. Shankaracharya was going to bathe in the river. He was the Advaitin, 8th century AD philosopher who established Advait philosophy. So according to him, Brahman is the only reality and all is verily Brahman. So he was going in Kashi, this incident happened, in Varanasi. He was going for his bath into the Ganges. And there are small lanes in Kashi. Even today you can see very small lanes. So in one of the lanes close to the ghat was this woman sitting with a corpse beside her and lamenting over the corpse. So he thought that she may be maybe the wife is lamenting on the body of her husband. So when he went closer, he saw she was occupying the entire lane. And he told her mother, if you please move the body, I will go for my bath in the Ganga. She immediately put him a question which stumped him. She said, look, you only say that everything is only Brahman. Then even this corpse is Brahman. So ask him to move. Ask Brahman to move. Why should he not listen to you? If Brahman is the only reality, then even this is Brahman. So it should move. Then Shankara realized, yes, what she says is right. But why doesn't it not move? Because something else is absent. There is no conjunction of Brahman with Shakti here. Vital energy has left the body. When there is no vital energy, there is no manifestation as life. So even if you ask it to move, it cannot move, it cannot do anything. Brahman becomes capable of manifestation, movement, action, everything only because of his union with Shakti. Only because of Prakriti. So as soon as this knowledge dawned on Shankara, he understood that she is no ordinary woman. So he bowed down to her and she revealed her true nature. She was Mahashakti herself, Parvati, and the corpse was Lord Shiva. The story is like that. So then they blessed Shankaracharya with this knowledge that Brahman is the ultimate truth. But what you are seeing as manifested truth is Brahman in collaboration, in conjunction with Shakti. So the way is through Shakti to Brahman. And Shankaracharya bowed down to them after he got this knowledge. The similar story is there with Totapuri also, the guru of Sri Ramakrishna. But just now we won't go into that. Let us go to the next verse. And then we'll take up the Q&A. Ananva sthula mahan swama dirgham ajam avyayam arupa gunavarnakyam tad brahmeti avadharayet. Realize that to be Brahman, which is neither subtle nor gross, neither short nor long, without birth and change, without form, qualities or color. See, you can only use the word of negation, the language of negation. You can't say what it is. What it is not, that you can say. So there's a beautiful passage from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad also quoted here. It is neither gross nor minute, neither short nor long, neither red nor moist, neither shadow nor darkness, neither air nor ether, neither savor nor odor, unattached, without eyes or ears, without vocal organ or mind, non-luminous, without vital force or mouth, without measure, without exterior or interior. You cannot describe it through any means because it is inconceivable by the senses and the mind. That's the bottom line. That is why you cannot describe it. So we will stop here and go into the Q&A. The first question is, in the last session you talked about Sukshma Sharir of a Rishi reincarnating. I gave you the story of one of the disciples of Shankaracharya, Hastamalakacharya. So it is not the self which reincarnates, but it is the Sukshma Sharir which carries the sanskars and karma into the next birth. then how am I to understand that I am not the Sukshma Sharir but the self which is constant and undivided for everybody? How does Vedanta explain this? Yes, you see, from the standpoint of the self, that is why there is no actual reincarnation. There is no incarnation even now, because you are not the body and mind. But you are identified with the body and mind, so you appear like an incarnate individual, a separate individual, a particular personality with a specific set of attributes. You appear like that. Investigate and see, you are always the self, upon which is being superimposed everything of this, all these attributes. So I gave the famous example of that bucket which we use. Suppose there is a bucket of water and the sun is getting reflected in that bucket of water. Take the bucket to be the body, the water in the bucket to be the mind, and the sun reflected in that water to be the what appears as your soul or the reflected awareness, the pramata. But the real sun is up there. Now suppose you kick the bucket starts leaking and you pour the water into another bucket. So the mind has got transferred into another bucket. So you call that reincarnation. And then the sun reflects there also. So you appear to have a causal body and a pramata, reflected awareness there also. But actually speaking, you are that sun. Doesn't matter how many buckets you kick. You are always the sun. You were never the bucket, nor the water, nor the reflected sun in the bucket. But as long as you don't know you are the real sun up there, you will think you are only that reflected sun in the water, and so you believe you reincarnated. The water was poured into another bucket. So think and see, it's all very clear in Vedanta. Now, the second question is, how do you define purity? And is it an outcome of spirituality or a prerequisite for spirituality? That's a beautiful question. So it is both. It is with sadhana, you require certain amount of purity for sadhana. And with sadhana, you become purer and purer. And how do you define purity? Purity is when it is not, the reality of your being is not mixed up with anything else. The thing in itself, not a mix-up, not an alloy. The metal in itself. You are the pure self-awareness. And you have identified with a body-mind complex and donned a personality. So separating this from the real you, this is actually purity. But in our personal life, at our particular level, purity will mean clarity of mind, purity of thought, word, deed, of emotion, keeping them clean and pure because we are searching for the ultimate, we are searching for the highest. This body, dedicating body and mind to God, all this constitutes purity. If you give it to the world will ravage it. Swami Brahmananda used to say this. If you give the body and mind to the world will just use it. If you give it to God, it will help you reach God. So purity actually means this. Keeping this system entirely clean and pure so that we are able to gain the knowledge of our true being. And the thing in itself is ultimate purity. The third question is, how do we measure the progress in meditation towards achieving consciousness? In the last class you mentioned you get a glimpse of bliss. What kind of experience is felt? Too much information on the internet and I do not know which is right and which should be taken. So should we stress ourselves is also a question. Should we stress ourselves in meditation? See, meditation is basically clarity of awareness. Even if you are concentrating on an object, to what purpose are you concentrating on an object? So that your focus becomes so complete, your awareness comes into full bloom. If you are seeking self-knowledge, this will be the nature of your meditation. If you are seeking a personal God, then of course the nature of your meditation will be focus on the object. Otherwise it is focus on unfolding your own awareness. So this is what meditation leads to. And should I stress about it? You must never stress about it. Meditation is something that happens spontaneously. When you keep practicing spiritual discipline, meditation is the state you're spontaneously ushered into. Keep doing japa or the chanting of the name of the Lord. At one point, your mind will simply plunge into God. That is meditation. So it is a consequence of the nature of your mind, the purity level of your mind. Meditation is a spontaneous act. Remember, the nature of our mind is, there's a whole lot of thoughts and vrittis, emotions, all this going on the surface of our mind. But deep within, deep down is a substratum, unchanging substratum of awareness. When you change this when you still the lake of your mind, you will see what is at the bottom. That will come to the surface naturally. So the whole point is training the mind. That is what meditation is about. The next is, we have so many attributes for Brahman, like infinite, etc. When we meditate, is it necessary to take one attribute and keep the mind in one form? So this is normally prescribed. You proceed from Sagun Sakar Brahman to Nirgun Nirakar Brahman. Meditate on one form of the Lord, concentrate there, focus all your energies there through love, and it will take, that meditation itself will take you to his real nature. This is what is generally prescribed. But there are so many types of meditation. You have said right in the beginning, we have so many attributes of Brahman. Should I necessarily meditate on one attribute? See, if you make your own mind completely free of everything, you will understand the nature of Brahman. This is also a kind of meditation. Emptying mind, neti neti, nididhyasan, these are all meditation techniques. So just inquiry and living with that, what you discover as a result of inquiry is also meditation. Like, for example, if you inquire, let me give you this basic pointer. You are aware of your hand, but your hand is not aware of you. Isn't it? So if you are aware of your hand, obviously this is the hand is the object and you are the subject, and the two are different. The hand is not aware of you, so awareness belongs to you, the subject. This much experience alone is enough to come to this conclusion. I am the subject apart from the object, apart from the body, apart from the hand. And awareness belongs to the subject and not to the hand or the object. Never to the body. Awareness belongs to me. If this much you can grasp, you will want to stay with it. Whatever your mind conceives to be true, it will want to stay with it. That is nididhyasan. So dwell deeply and see, who am I? Then who is this subject? And you will naturally come to the conclusion that only awareness is there. The unchanging awareness, which is of the nature of existence and consciousness, because it gives you conscious experiences. That awareness alone is really me. The rest is all changing. I have the option to identify or disidentify from it. Most of the time, you are not body conscious. You are not identified with the body. That is why, we never remember our age until we think about it. Have you noticed this? We always feel young and alive because you are always awareness actually. How can you age? But then when you think, oh, I was born in this year, so now I am 70 years old, then you start feeling old. You are never old. Or I should say, you are the ancient one. You are the oldest. You were ever there and you will continue to ever be there. You are not the body and mind. Any problem with the body, you can't even detect it. You don't even know what is going wrong where. You can't pinpoint anything. You require a CT scan, an ultrasound, some such thing to tell you what is wrong where. You are not the body. We have not been given this knowledge in childhood. That is why this mistake, this error, this adhyas has occurred. That's why I see we have this great responsibility of at least making our children and grandchildren hear these truths again and again. You may be identified with the body, but you are not the body. You may be identified with the mind, but you are not the mind. You are ever aware. Awareness alone, in which there is a body and mind, which you are occasionally identified with. That's all. But we have presumed just now that we are body, mind, and that is my identity. So this is only an error in thinking. Can you catch it? It is just wrong thinking. Adhyas means this much only. Superimposition means an error in your thinking process. So that's why Vedanta. Start thinking anew. And start thinking from the first person standpoint, not how the world sees me, but how do I feel myself to be. At any point of time, you will discover you are only aware, never identified, or occasionally identified by choice. That's all. So this being the real state of affairs, we can't, you see, Vedanta is never far from you. Vedanta is the reality about you. In fact, identification and ignorance is something far from you. It is not your real being. It's not your real nature. So adopt what you always are and keep a distance from what you never were. That is Vedanta. So let's conclude here. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhaga Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.